Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're troubleshooting.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean your Wi-Fi or, your printer. We're troubleshooting. The reason why you can work 50, 60 hours a week, get a promotion, see a bigger number on your paycheck,
Right.
and yet, by the 28th of the month, you're still checking your banking app with one eye closed, hoping there's enough left.
It's the paradox of the modern professional, isn't it? We have this assumption, let's call it a hardware assumption,
Where's some?
but that if we just, upgrade the processor, meaning we earn more money, the output will automatically get better.
But it doesn't.
But that rarely happens.
You get the faster processor, but the computer still crashes. And that's exactly why I wanted to talk about the Wealth Operating System by Joshua R. Marsh today.
Yeah.
Because his whole thesis is that most of us are trying to run these, high-performance applications, wealth-building early retirement on a corrupted operating system.
It's a really compelling metaphor. Marsh argues that your financial life isn't defined by the data, the dollars you feed it. It's defined by the code it's running on.
The OS.
Exactly. If the OS is buggy, or if it's running, legacy code from 1995, it doesn't matter if you make 50,000 or 500,000, the system will glitch.
And the output is always zero.
Always.
So the mission for this deep dive is pretty clear.
Yeah.
We need to do a factory reset. We need to uninstall the bugs and install a new architecture.
A new OS.
Right. Marsh calls this moving from borrowed thinking to created thinking. But before we get to the upgrade, we have to look at the legacy code. Where does this borrowed thinking actually come from?
Well, think about how an operating system gets installed on a computer.
Okay.
It's usually there before you even buy it. Marsh calls this the sociology of the dinner table. He argues that the dinner table is the first classroom of finance.
I think everyone has a vivid memory of this. For some, it was the silence money was this taboo radioactive thing you just didn't touch. For others, it was loud.
Mm-hmm.
Arguments over bills, stress, that feeling of scarcity.
Exactly. And those moments write lines of code in your brain. So if you grew up hearing, money doesn't grow on trees, or rich people are greedy, or even just, we can't afford that.
Right.
Those aren't just phrases, they become background processes. They're scripts that run automatically whenever you interact with money later in life.
So let's push back on that for a second. It sounds a bit like we're just blaming our parents for our bad spending habits. Is this just shifting responsibility?
It's not about blame, it's about root access. You can't fix a bug you can't see.
Okay.
If your internal script says rich people are bad and you think you're a good person, your subconscious is going to self-sabotage every time you start to accumulate wealth.
You'll get rid of the money to stay good.
You'll get rid of it. Marsh calls this the echo chamber of poverty. If everyone in your circle is stressed about money, stress feels like the default setting. It just feels normal.
But it's actually just a glitch.
It's malware. And the first step is what Marsh calls mental decolonization.
Mental decolonization.
Yeah, you have to look at a thought like, I'll never be able to buy a house, and ask, is this my thought based on my data? Or is this a recording of my parents' anxiety from 1990?
Okay, so let's assume we've identified we're running some outdated software.
Yeah.
We need to look at performance. How is the system actually running?
Right.
And Marsh draws a really sharp line here between income and flow.
This is critical. We tend to obsess over the income metric because it's a status symbol. But Marsh says a high earner with bad flow is just efficient at being inefficient.
That's a great line.
It's so accurate. If you make $200,000 a year, but your system is designed to consume $200,000 a year, you aren't wealthy. You're just a conduit.
A conduit.
You're processing a lot of data, but retaining none of it. You're broke in a nicer car.
So to fix the flow, he suggests the 30-day mirror, which, I have to say, sounds horrifying. You have to track every single penny for a month.
It is painful, but it's a diagnostic. You can't patch the leaks if you don't know where the pipes are bursting. And usually people find what Marsh calls the 5 leaks.
Okay, let's walk through these because I recognize myself in about 3 of them. The first is convenience.
The laziness tax. This is delivery fees because you didn't want to cook.
Yeah.
Uber because you don't want to walk 4 blocks.
Mm-hmm.
It's paying a premium to avoid minor discomfort. It feels like $5 here and there, but over a year, it's a massive drain on your processing power.
Then there's subscription creep.
Zombie processes. In a computer, these are programs running in the background, eating up RAM, but doing nothing.
Right.
That streaming service you haven't watched in 6 months, that's a zombie process. It's slowing you down.
And the big one, lifestyle inflation.
This is the bloatware. You get a raise, so you get a better apartment. You get a bonus, so you lease a new car. Your spending rises to match your income exactly.
It's a feature, not a bug.
It's a feature of the consumer economy. It's designed to keep your free space at zero.
Then we have emotional spending, buying those little dopamine hits and ghost expenses, those random fees you forget about. The takeaway here seems to be that if you don't assign money a job, the default setting is always consumption.
That is the rule of financial physics. Unassigned money gets spent, always. If you don't have a firewall, the marketers will hack your wallet every single time.
So let's build the firewall. Let's talk about the patch.
Yeah.
This is the part of the book where Marsh gets very prescriptive. He outlines a specific allocation hierarchy.
Yeah.
And I want to slow down here because these percentages are controversial.
They're aggressive, but that's the point.
Okay, so here's the breakdown Marsh recommends for your take-home pay. 20% to growth, 30% to housing, 10% transportation, another 10 to debt or a buffer, 15 to living, 5% to protection,
Yeah.
and 10% for discretionary for fun.
Right.
Now, let's be real. That
Oh.
30% for housing, in this market, in a major city, that feels impossible.
And Marsh acknowledges that, but he frames it as a diagnostic flag. If your rent is 50% of your income, the system is overheating.
It's a warning light.
You can't just ignore that warning light. It means you have a structural problem. You either need to earn significantly more to cool the system down, or you need to move.
That's a hard pill to swallow.
It is, but math is indifferent to our feelings. If 50% goes to housing, the math says you will likely never build wealth. The growth partition is empty.
Speaking of that growth partition, he puts that 20% at the very top. Before food, before rent.
This is the pay yourself first principle, but on steroids. He says you have to treat it like a mandatory tax.
A tax.
Yeah. If you don't pay your electric bill, the lights go out today. If you don't pay your growth bill, the lights go out in your future. You have to treat your future self as a creditor who needs to be paid now.
So how do we actually implement this? Because most people have, one checking account where everything just gets mixed together like a stew.
Which is a disaster for clarity. Marsh advocates for the two-account strategy. Think of it like partitioning a hard drive.
Okay.
Account 1 is for bills. It's boring. It's sterile. You calculate your fixed costs. You put that exact money in, and it just disappears to pay utilities. You never look at this account for fun.
And account 2.
Account 2 is your user interface. That's your spending money, groceries, movies, coffee. When that account hits zero, you stop spending.
It creates an air gap.
Exactly.
Okay.
It creates artificial scarcity. If all your money is in one pile, you feel rich on payday. By separating them, you protect yourself from your own impulses.
This brings us to the engine. We know the percentages, we know the accounts, but we are human beings. We get tired, we get tempted. How do we stop ourselves from messing this up?
You automate. You remove the user from the equation as much as possible. Marsh talks about decision fatigue.
Which is so real. The version of me at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday is not a rational economic actor. That version of me just wants takeout and to buy something shiny online.
Precisely. That version of you has low battery and overheated circuits. You cannot trust that version to transfer money to savings.
No.
So you use the smart morning version of you to set up the system. He calls it the 1-hour build.
Okay, walk us through that. What happens in that hour?
You log into your bank. You set up a scheduled transfer for that 20% growth to go to your investment account automatically. And here's the key.
Okay.
You schedule it for the day after payday.
Ah, so you never even see it.
You never touch it. It bypasses your checking account entirely. Then you set all your fixed bills to auto pay from that boring bills account.
It sounds a little scary to automate everything. What if you overdraft?
That fear is usually a symptom of not knowing your numbers. Once you run the diagnostic and set the allocation, the math just works. The beauty of this is that it changes the default setting.
How so?
Right now, for most people, the default is spending, and you have to exert willpower to save. After the 1-hour bill, the default is wealth building. You would actually have to log in, navigate the menus, and cancel the transfer to stop saving.
You're making it harder to be broke than to be rich.
You're aligning the path of least resistance with your long-term goals. That is just good engineering.
Okay, so the system is running, but systems crash, life happens, tires blow out, roofs leak, pandemics happen. We need a firewall.
Marsh calls this the fortress. And this is where he differentiates between growth and protection. You need a buffer.
A buffer.
1 month, 3 months, eventually 6 months of expenses in cash.
But with inflation, people hate keeping cash. They feel like it's losing value just sitting there.
And that's a dangerous optimization trap. Marsh argues that the return on investment for an emergency fund isn't interest, it's calm. It's stored optionality.
I like that phrase, stored optionality.
When you have 6 months of expenses in a boring, high-yield savings account, your biology changes. Your cortisol levels drop. You move from the amygdala, the fight-or-flight panic center, to the prefrontal cortex, where strategy happens. You can't make good long-term decisions when you're terrified about making rent next week.
So the cash buffer acts like a cooling system for your brain.
Correct. And he is very strict about the separation of church and state.
Okay.
You never mix your emergency fund with your investments. If the market crashes, which it will, and you lose your job at the same time, which often happens, you don't want to be forced to sell your stocks at the bottom just to buy groceries.
The firewall protects the engine.
The cash firewall protects the compounding engine, yes.
Okay, we've debugged the mind, patched the leaks, automated the flow, and built the firewall. Now we get to the fun part, the upgrade.
Yeah.
This is about that 20% growth bucket. What are we actually doing with it?
We're being boring. Marsh is extremely anti-excitement when it comes to investing. If your investing strategy feels like a thriller movie, you're doing it wrong.
You're gambling.
You're gambling.
So no crypto mean shots.
No. He advocates for index funds, just buying the entire market. Low cost, highly diversified. It's the tortoise strategy. But the secret sauce isn't what you buy, it's time.
Time over timing.
The compounding latency. He gives this brutal example. If you start investing $500 a month at age 25 versus starting at age 35, the difference at retirement isn't just the money you didn't put in. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars of lost compound interest. Waiting is the most expensive mistake you can make.
And this leads us to the ultimate goal. Why are we doing all this? It's not just to have a high score on the screen. It's for the freedom number.
Right. Marsh gives a formula. Annual expenses times 25.
Can we break that down? Because times 25 sounds a little arbitrary. Where does that number come from?
It comes from the 4% rule in finance. The research suggests that if you have a portfolio, you can safely withdraw 4% of it every year to live on.
And not run out.
And the market growth will likely replenish that 4%, so you never run out of money.
So if I need, say, $50,000 a year to live.
You multiply 50,000 by 25, which gives you 1.25 million. Once you hit that number, you are theoretically a self-sustaining perpetual motion machine.
Your money makes enough money to pay for your life.
Exactly.
That is the point where work becomes optional.
That is system autonomy. And that triggers the final and hardest shift. The identity shift. Moving from worker to steward.
This feels like the psychological climax of the book. Because we are so conditioned to identify with our labor, I am a lawyer. I'm a builder.
Right. The worker trades time for money. The worker is a component in someone else's machine. But when you reach autonomy, you become a steward. You're managing a system of resources. And Marsh points out this is surprisingly difficult.
Why?
Guilt. If you come from borrowed thinking where money equals struggle, then not struggling can feel like you're betraying your family.
Survivor's guilt.
It's survivor's guilt. You feel lazy because the system is doing the work, not your sweat.
That's profound. We think we want freedom, but when we get it, we don't know who we are without the struggle.
Exactly. Marsh says the hardest work isn't the math. The math is easy. The hardest work is giving yourself permission to step off the treadmill, to accept that your value isn't tied to how exhausted you are at the end of the day.
It brings us all the way back to that idea of legacy. There was a question in the outro that really stuck with me. He asks the reader to consider what they are passing down.
Yes. He says we all leave a financial legacy. But for most, that legacy is a warning.
Right.
Don't do what I did. Don't be stressed like me.
The cautionary tale.
Marsh challenges us to pass down a system instead. And he doesn't just mean passing down a check. If you give a lottery winner millions of dollars, but they're running poverty OS, they will lose it all.
We see it happen all the time.
Constantly. But if you pass down the operating system, the knowledge of how to allocate, how to automate, how to protect us, you're building a dynasty.
You're upgrading the source code for the next generation.
You're breaking the chain of scarcity. You're being the first one in your line to say, the struggle stops with me.
So, for everyone listening who feels like their system is lagging or crashing or just overheating, what's the first step?
Open the task manager, look at the processes, do the 30-day tracking. You can't upgrade a system you don't understand.
Right.
And then build the automation. Even if you can't do the full 20% growth yet, start with 1%. Start with $20 a week.
Write the code.
Exactly. Establish the neural pathway that says, I pay myself first. A mediocre system that runs automatically for 30 years will beat a brilliant strategy that you only stick to for 3 months. Consistency is the ultimate hack.
I think that's the perfect place to leave it. Stop trying to run your life on willpower and start building your OS.
Reboot the system.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you on the next update.